Hello and welcome to WNHH-FM's Dateline New Haven. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make the Elm City tick. Well, we usually have Mayor Monday on at this time each week, but today it's Mayor Monday less. Mayor Toni Harp cannot make it today because of some government business she needs to attend to. We're going to pivot to local headlines, local tunes, a look at some of the latest news, interspersed with recordings by New Haven musicians. So thanks for joining us. I hope everyone had a great weekend and a relaxed one. It's back to spring-like weather for a few days before we go back to the freeze. And you can walk around without slipping. And, obviously the big news in the last few days was Anthony Campbell announced he's going to resign as our police chief. Put in a couple of years, it seems like it's the tenure now, more or less, for big jobs. And he stirred up some controversy when he left. So Anthony Campbell has been in the New Haven Police Department for over 20 years, had an interesting path there. He grew up the son of a corrections worker and an inmate that corrections worker was watching at Rikers Island, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken, in New York. He went to Yale Divinity School, became a minister, but also became a cop and a real community policing cop. He eventually taught at the academy there, rose up the ranks, smart guy, nice guy. He really deals well with people. And one of his great moments that will never be forgotten is that some guy was driving away from the police, committed a crime, ran into then Officer Campbell on the street, threw him up in the air. He almost died. He was out for years. And he went to this man's sentencing and asked the judge to go easier on him, to give the guy a second chance. So I would argue it's the ultimate test, or almost the ultimate. Once you're a kid, it's the ultimate. But that's a pretty great test of a person walking the walk rather than talking the talk. So as Chief, Anthony Campbell, I would argue, sort of like Mel Waring back in the 90s, was our continuity chief. After a period in which a chief came in with ideas about shaking up the department, getting in tons of personality fights, ambitious new plans, and also some personal peccadillos that sometimes got in the way, and a roller coaster ride and a lot of progress too, this department was kind of exhausted. Police chief leaves among controversy. And then somebody else comes in who has been steadily in the department, rising up, gets along with all factions, gets along with the community, and just kind of steers the ship for a while while we catch our breath. Of course, there's always drama. There were controversies, but it never got personal for the whole couple of years of Anthony Campbell's tenure. He negotiated, a lot of strong feelings in town about issues and kept it focused on the issues, introduced body cameras, kept crime at its lowest rate. Since we've been recording crime statistics more than half a century, the guy steered the ship. And he never went out of his way never to insult people and never to really criticize people. And then when he left, when he announced he's leaving, he's not leaving at the end of March, and Otonio Reyes is going to be the new chief. Chief Campbell made a point of singling out some people he thought were creating a problem for the future of policing in Connecticut. Chief Campbell said very specifically, I'm leaving because I have no guarantee that health benefits will remain the same for top cops. This is an interesting issue. I want to talk about it a little more in a minute because I think it's actually not a good guys, bad guys issue. I think it's not even a personality issue. I think it's a tough challenge facing our city. We got to figure out and talk about intelligently. But Chief Campbell made a point of saying, I was so disrespected by members of the board, leaders of the Board of Alders. I said, fine, I'll leave. And here's what he said happened. He was meeting with department heads and leaders of the Board of Alders a couple weeks ago at City Hall. And he told them, look, we got a problem. We are hemorrhaging police officers in New Haven. And this is true. We've had an exodus of people at all levels. Because even though we give cops better benefits than a lot of us would get, retiring in now 25 years rather than 20, and you get, lifetime, pretty good pension, lifetime benefits. The city's been trying to get some of those benefits back because we feel we can't afford them. But on the other hand, because other towns pay better and they have less crime, it's a less dangerous job, they're just pulling all our people out. So Chief Campbell pointed out to the people assembled, look, everybody's leaving. He's leaving for a job as an inspector at the state's attorney's office. He and others have been at the top levels of the New Haven Police Department trying to become police chief in smaller towns or even not police chief. Because they're worried. The police department has been working without a contract for 3 years. And then the chiefs, even though they're not in the union, their health benefits, like other executive managers in New Haven government, are tied to those of the union. So right now the contract's in binding arbitration, and the city's trying to take back health care benefits. Chief Campbell told the leaders, he said, look, we're losing everybody. Every single person running this department with experience is looking to leave, in addition to all the grassroots people left that are rank and file. So you might have a situation soon, like Hartford, where we might have a situation soon where nobody with more than 11 years experience is in the department, ready to run things. He said you might have a situation like Hartford, where the place got to be such a disaster the state had to come in and run it. Believe me, that would scare the hell out of me, because state police are an invading army when they come to New Haven. They're not that we have community policing anymore, but state policing is the opposite. So apparently Dolores Colon, one of the older leaders, said, go take it if you get a better offer. If we have to call in state police, we'll call state police. You're not going to blackmail us. And Anthony Campbell, usually very even-keeled guy, said, you disrespect me like that, I'm gone. Now, he was looking anyway, but he said that was the final straw. I had a conversation on Friday with Taisha Walker, who's the board alder's president. She claimed it didn't quite happen like that, although she didn't deny that Dolores Cohn made that statement. In fact, someone else at the meeting confirmed to me that's the exact statement she made. She's not in charge of the board of alders. Taisha Walker is. She said, look, this is a bigger issue. You can't just talk about it for police chiefs, because you have dozens of other people in city government. Most of them run departments. Some of them are just mid-level employees who have access to confidential information. Executive management and confidential employees, the ones who don't have a union, their benefits are tied to those of rank and file. So if rank and file does health concessions, which has been happening, then the top managers get it too. So if we're going to change that, we can't just say, Chief Campbell, we don't want you to leave. And she said, we made that clear. She said she made that clear, not the ones calling. Then, Chief Campbell, we want to look at this. We just can't do it this minute. We have to look at it more holistically with the whole department, the whole city, department heads, and the whole group, looking at the whole situation, because we also have financial strains. And the city's trying to come up with a 5-year plan to get its long-range fiscal ship straightened, because we have a structural deficit of tens of millions of dollars. So, in my opinion, no one was wrong there. And, you know, it's funny that the alders leadership never tell the public what they're up to or what they do. So they always lose in the end, because they feel that it's beneath them to do anything democratically and in public. So I give Taisha Walker a lot of credit for chatting about this on Friday. Since then, like when the register called, they didn't talk about it. And they waited 3 days to give a statement on high with no real information in from the board alders leaders. It was so content free, we didn't even publish it in the Independent. Said it was unfortunate that Campbell decided to retire. We value the partnership. We have tremendous respect for the entire workforce. So they're not saying what happened, except to say we will not allow partial comments taken out of context to blemish that perception or deter from the work we recognize our officers do. So that's just political. But they have a real concern, and I actually sympathize with all sides on this. I sympathize with cops who say, I came in under one set of rules, and that's what these health benefits would be like, and I'm going to go get some better if I leave. I sympathize with the Board of Alders leaders and the members of the Board of Alders who say, we just can't raise taxes anymore. We can't borrow our way out of it, even though they did do that for a few years, which is very, very dangerous. So we have to look at this holistically. They also agree with people who say the executives shouldn't get a better deal on health care than the rank and file. They get paid more as it is, but I think if they had to pay, let's say you retire, let's say at $160,000 salary, the police department, and you're in your mid-40s, you're going to get another career, another job, and the rest of your life, you're going to get a sweet $100K or more a year, $120 a year in that pension from New Haven. Now, if your health care for your family goes up even wildly after this, if you have to pay $20,000 a year for your family, that still leaves you a net of $100,000 a year to pay for after health care, with health care covered. Now, I don't join those people who resent cops and others in government for getting good pensions. I think everyone should get a good pension. The fact that the private sector over the years has taken advantage of government-assisted murder of union membership to get rid of benefits and get rid of good pensions and shift people to 401ks and matching funds. I don't think the answer is to have our cops get that, or even anyone else who works in city government. The answer is that we should all get good pensions. So I don't it for a minute resent cops or anyone else getting good medical care, good pensions. I feel for them if they have to take it back, because the rest of them aren't going to get $100,000 a year when they retire. I don't resent them their retirement offer that after a risky job for 25 years now, it used to be 20, they get to retire. Because we got to remember, from their point of view, if you were in their shoes, would you not go to Hamden or North Branford, which seems to be the mecca now for New Haven cops? Not quite sure what that's about. If you got more money, $20,000 more a year, which is what the going rate is in some cases to start, $20,000 more at the top when you're done, or 15, better health care, better retirement. So we're in a fix, folks. It's not the end of the world kind of fix. It's not like a nuclear showdown with North Korea. But we got to solve this. And I would argue that one way to solve it is to be able to talk about it like so many other issues intelligently, the pros and pluses and minuses. Realize that if we want a lot of cops, then we have to pay the taxes for it. If we want to keep the cops we have to explore whether we can do better with fewer cops or not, and fewer kind of special departments. And that's my take on it. And we can all do well by listening, because this is a day on Dateline New Haven. It's usually Mayor Monday, but not today. This is a day when we're listening to local music. You've been listening to Afro-Semitic Experience in the background, interspersed with local headlines. And now the local music I'd like to play is by one of my favorite New Haven artists. She just brings so much joy since she moved here from South Africa to Westville. Playing around town, she comes on the radio. Her name is Tabiza. And this song is called Vula on WNHH FM, your home for community radio.
dig it down. Scum dig it down. Scum di dabble do 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 dabble. Scum dig it down. Scum dig it down. Scum di dabble do 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 dabble. Au fulelo nyango wako, kau fulelo sango lako, kau fule dingene bayandi sukela bon. Yeah. Kau fulelo nyango wako, kau fulelo sango lako, kau fule dingene. Boom 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 boom. Boom 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 boom. Boom 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 boom. Ay woo woo woo. Boom 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 boom. Boom 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 boom. Boom 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 boom. Whoa.
All right. That was Vule from Tabiza, one of our great local musicians in New Haven. I believe she shot that video. And if you're watching us on Facebook Live, you saw the video. She shot that in South Africa where she grew up. And she's one of our great local musicians in New Haven. You're listening to Local Headlines, Local Music on Dateline New Haven at WNHH FM, your home for community radio at 103.5 FM. Let's talk about the headlines. I forgot to talk about police, to give congratulations to the new, as of this week, president of the police union, Florencio Cotto. He replaces Craig Miller, who is one of those dozens and dozens of cops who are fleeing for the suburbs. He's going to North Branford to be a patrolman after 21 years, I believe, or 20 in New Haven. He was the president of Elm City Police Union and Elm City Local. And Florencio is, I believe, a dozen years or so on the force. He grew up in New Haven. First union president of color in New Haven. He didn't focus on that, but I think it's worth noting. And he's got some challenges on his hands. How are you going to preserve the pay and benefits, let alone increase them for local cops who are being poached by suburban departments, and also keep a force of this size? I think everyone's agreeing we can go down from the number 495. We're in the high 300s now. The problem is once you have a spate of crimes, whether or not it's related to the number of cops you have, there will be pressure on politicians to immediately boost the overtime, which we can't afford, or resume those numbers of cops. And we have to look at whether retired Assistant Police Chief John Bleck is right, that there are special units that are not necessary for keeping the crime rate down, that we can get more people on the street without sacrificing some of that contact with neighbors. There are other congratulations in order. One of them is for a guy you don't hear about, but actually has an impact on our city. His name's Justin Goldberg. He's a young developer. Took over the family development business, real estate business in Navarino from Fairfield County. And he's been quietly fixing up buildings in New Haven, running apartment buildings, sort of middle-class apartment buildings, work in the middle, and doing it without public help for the most part. So he just did a very successful flip. In 2014, he bought the Brennan Towers, which was a rundown, but not a public housing, working middle-class development. 60 units, 60 apartments, kind of tucked back from the corner of, and past these kind of condos and stuff there, but tucked back past the corner of Whaley and Boulevard. You can't see it from the street. Red brick of this old-fashioned apartment building. He bought it 2014. He just sold it for around $6.7 million, a $2.2 million profit. Half of that went to fixing up the place and running it. So he did it honestly. Yeah, and as I said, he doesn't want you to hear about him. That's not his business. He's not out for the glory. He's not trying to woo politicians. He saw a good market in New Haven, and it wasn't upscale housing, the way some people are making their money right now. It wasn't public housing, the way other people sometimes make their money. And the reason we got to know him at all is that he came to the rescue a few years ago. There was all these housing co-ops we built in the 60s and 70s in New Haven. They were tenant co-ops. They were falling apart. The co-op associations were no longer, or just about no longer. They were defaulting on mortgages one by one. They toppled. And Dwight Gardens was one. It was called Dwight Co-ops. 99 Edgewood Ave, across from what's now the Amistad School, formerly I was their middle school, the K8, formerly the Dwight School. And the city had brought in a developer with help to fix it up, and it was a disaster. So the people living there had their second disaster after the place was falling apart with the infighting at the tenants cooperative. And this guy Goldberg was brought in, who was not politically connected or juiced, and he did the job. There was, I think, 80-something units. He got half of those townhouses fixed a while back. Everyone's in them. And I was walking by them today. The second half are open now again. No drama, no big deal. But it's like good, solid, working, middle-class people housing in our neighborhoods. And so he did that with Brendan Towers, and now he has a place, Bulldog Apartments, downtown on Chapel Street. So we wish him well. I don't think it makes people heroes to come in and be business and make money in real estate. I think it doesn't make them villains. It means if they do their work honestly and people are living at a rate they can pay, then I say, given how horrible a lot of our real estate management is in town, given how much speculation, sometimes outright illegality, fraud, sometimes just not up to the job takes place, I'm grateful that this guy's out there and he's able to keep paying the bills. That's good. You know, Randy Salvador's at the other end. He's doing the luxury market rate apartments, market rate meaning for wealthy people. At the novella he built and flipped, made a tidy sum. He just opened the Blake Hotel, which is our first of what's going to be a series, allegedly, a boutique and other newer upper scale hotels with our first Michelin chef restaurant on the first floor. Swanky place. But, you know, he got that built, no drama, high on George Streets. And he got some public help for the apartments and offices he's building in the Hill, but that's only because the city said we want 30% of it to be market rate. And one of several ideas out there for how you do that involves having subsidies for low-income apartments, but otherwise he's building that, and that's going up. And again, we've had a lot of drama over the years, fights over projects. This guy comes in, he just builds it, it gets up. We can argue about parts of it. He does deal with the community. He doesn't try to steamroll it. And so, you know, a lot's happening in New Haven. And the other thing that I thought was great yesterday, I'm going to give you two numbers about this, was we had one of those events that take place every year that bring a lot of people together around shared value and community, fun, and a good cause. And yesterday it was the Iris Run for Refugees, Immigrant, Refugee, and Integrated Refugee and Immigration Services, I think it's called. It's the place that's a model, even though I hate that word model for New Haven, there's no question it is, for the country of how we help people, refugees from other countries, come here and settle. We're not doing as many as we used to because Trump administration has lowered the number who can come, but they still come from places like Syria and different African nations and Middle Eastern countries, Latin America, and they do a great job resettling people, and the community really rallies around them every year. They want it. New Haven is a sanctuary city. People here support more immigration, not less. We feel it makes our city strong. I'm part of that group that feels that way. And one way people show support, although I'm too lazy to show support this way, is running in an annual race. So in East Rock, starts at Wilbur Cross, ends at Wilbur Cross. They do a 5K run for refugees and raise money. So one number is they raised over $100,000 on Sunday by running in the race for Iris. Great cause, great money. I think an equally important number is that over 3,000 people ran. Think about that. 3,000 people. That's a lot of people. A lot more people than you get at a Board of Alders meeting. And if you're not Kamala Harris or Bernie Sanders, it's a lot more people you get at a political rally, even for a presidential candidate. That's a cause, and people had a good time. Some of the refugees who are in food business, chefs, were making dishes for people to eat at the end. I think about some of those events a year, Rock to Rock, when people do the bike rides, some of the kind of slow, just having fun bike rides, some of the macho spandex go 20K all over the place bike rides, and just community celebrations take place along with it, where again, in that case, it's hundreds of people hop on bikes. All these community organizations raise money for green causes. And I think of Open Studios, which used to be 1 week a year when Art Space got some building that wasn't being used or wasn't used for that purpose, and brought artists in to make it alive with dozens or more local artists showing their work. It is now 3 to 4 weeks a year where that happens, special events. Just an opening night in Westville, just one part of studios around town, because you also go to everyone's local studios in addition to the one building they get a year. They get thousands of people in the center of Westville on a Friday night just for the opening there. And it happens in every neighborhood, the New Hallville Artist Studios, or Rector Square in Fairhaven, you name it. And that's what we are in New Haven. That's part of our value too: culture, grassroots art, community. We're not a tennis city. I'm going to talk about that after we hear the next local song here on Local Headlines, Local Music, from a group that's not around today, although some of its members are still around, like Leslie Plateau, but it left its mark. It's called Groove Ski. They got a song I really like. Let's see if you like it too, called Groove Ski versus Godzilla. WNHH FM.
For the purpose of dancing to the groove ski beat. The sun is shining through the clouds. Godzilla would like to step over a crowd. Come and stand next to electric poles. Godzilla would like to step on your toes. Down and watch the groove ski movie.
That's Groove Ski versus Godzilla on Local Headlines, Local Music. Dateline New Haven, WNHH FM, your home for community radio, 103.5 FM. That recording's from 2002. I don't know, do you think it sounds dated? The band's not around anymore. Leslie Plateau, who played it, is still around, making trouble, not always with music, but good trouble in the classroom. And I like that song a lot. I think, So we're talking about headlines that people are following in New Haven these days. And before that song, I talked about what's really working in New Haven. So many things are working. The market rate, housing explosion, the downtown restaurant scene, the arts culture that shows every year with events like Open Studios, the Run for Refugees Sunday, 3,000 runners, more than that, 400,000 raised for refugees, the Rock to Rock that we have every year. So, so much good is happening, and just tennis doesn't work. And, you know, it's funny, the wealthiest interests in the community and in a state in our country are always railing against government trying to, quote, pick winners and losing, using tax money to try to create jobs or support venues. But, you know, the biggest example of wasted corporate welfare over and over again, New Haven, defying the market, has been the tennis tournament we had all these years. We built a stadium for what was first $18 million. I think the price went over $20 million in the early 90s out by the Yale Bowl. There's nothing wrong with it. Tennis is nice. I love the woman who runs it, Ann Worcester. But, you know, first it was a men's tournament. It was a big deal. Then it got downgraded. We kept trying to save it. Public money kept going in. It still goes in every year. New Haven doesn't have much money. And the idea was that there would always be these studies that show these multiplier effects. So I was always very skeptical about that and the idea was get rich people from Fairfield County here to drive up to watch tennis, and they'll go to all our restaurants and they'll patronize our shops supposedly, and you know they always put a decimal on it, you know, like $9.7 for every dollar, or 4.3, and that's nonsense. And people don't even want to go see the tennis, and it's not because there's anything wrong with that. It's because that's not who we are, and the market tells us that. That's what's so funny, is that whenever rich people want corporate welfare, they want government support, all of a sudden they find it as the public good and they ignore the market. So we kept going through very different iterations of this tournament. Fewer people were coming, despite great efforts of Ann Worcester. who was running it. And now the state stepped in. The state that's been broke, having deficits of up to $2 billion a year, 2.5, comes in and buys the stadium, buys the tournament, rights and all that kind of stuff. And still nobody's going. I love one person noted that I don't watch it on TV. Apparently they're really good at having the cameras never show you that nobody's in the stands. And it's fun to go watch there. I'm not a tennis fan, but I'd go every year with my wife and Carol and I. We'd watch, at night some match during the week. It's nice sitting out there. But man, what a loser. So this week it's announced that after all the latest rounds of corporate welfare and rescue, we can't rescue people whose food stamps are threatened in Washington. We can't rescue job creation for poor people. We can't rescue urban aid that keeps getting cut for cities where we can't be reimbursed for our tax-exempt property. But somehow there were always millions to keep this tournament for mythical, rich, blonde-haired, dyed Fairfield County people to come to watch tennis and never spend any money anywhere else in New Haven. And they weren't even coming. So this week was announced that China bought the tournament rights, and the tournament's going to be in China, not New Haven, and we're stuck with the stadium, which I hope we can turn to a music venue, but we'll see. Hope my neighbors in Westville wise up and realize it'd be a good thing to go down the street and hear some good music live in a nice summer night. But what really struck me is that the Independent, when it broke, we thought this was big news. We put it on the, in the top story section, and people cared, but not a single person was sorry to see it leave. People were in comments, good riddance, so long it's been good to know you, haha. And there wasn't nearly as much interest in that as the superintendent of schools going to the Sound School Library and talking with parents about why they have to pay extra fees for security people if they want to have an event after hours. And I'm okay with that. I don't think, it gets defined of what's the public good, what raises up New Haven is corporate welfare for a wealthy culture. And we have great culture that appeals to people at all levels. We have fantastic theater. We have great art galleries. We have great restaurants for every pocket book. We got wonderful communal events. I was talking earlier about whether it's Art Space or Iris. We don't have to be a sports town too. People do go to Yale hockey. It's very nice. They're not going to Yale football so much anymore, but they got their sports. And Quinnipiac over in Hamden has people going to sports. So I say, for once, let some of the wealthy interests live by their ideas about the market. We won't go into today about some of the decisions being made about what the market dictates for the beleaguered quest to fill a performance space under the Crown Street Garage. We could talk about that some other day. But we are talking about local music, local headlines on Dateline New Haven. I'd like to play a song by someone who puts out at least an album a year, sometimes more, in between doing a lot of, he does a lot of municipal law work, he does political work, and his name is Steve Mednick. And he put out one of his many albums. It's called The Ceremony of Innocence, Problems in Democracy, Volume 4. And one of the songs that I think Harry Drost, the station manager, and I agree on this one, even if we don't agree on Donald Trump, that this is quite a good song by Stephen. It's called Someone Needs to Fight This War.
Drums and ring all the bells.
need to fight this war.
Whoa, I like that song more every time I hear it. That's Steve Mednick. We playing it, on and off again on WNHH FM since it came out in his 2016 album, The Ceremony of Innocence. You'll hear more of that in the background here. Problems in Democracy, Volume 4. He's feeling it. He's feeling it, and I agree with him. Someone's got to fight this war. We need clean air. We need clean water. Someone's got to fight it. And you're hearing about that on Dateline New Haven. Local headlines, local tracks. WNHH FM 103.5. Live streamed at newhavenindependent.org. So I don't know if it's a war, but the quest for a progressive vision, another name for liberal, at the state capitol are the Democratic state senators and representatives from New Haven and Hamden. They're all Democrats except for George Logan, who's state senator, has a broader district than just Hamden. And Tom Breen counted a lot. He can do math. He's younger than I am. And he counted 314 bills, 314, pi, I guess, that they've submitted for this session that has begun in Hartford of the General Assembly. Now, obviously, not all 314 become law. They have priorities, but they add up to a vision of where they'd like to take the state. And the reason that matters more this year is that the Democrats had a super year at the elections. Last general election, they got near super majorities in both the House and the Senate in Hartford, and they got the governor's office. They did it by running on an anti-Trump platform. They were very open about what their priorities were. So now they got to deliver. It's not always easy as you think. When you think about why the state was sued for screwing cities on urban education aid, it was a Democratic majority that had fights among urban and suburban legislators that created a situation where judges couldn't believe you were taking money out of Bridgeport schools, and giving them to Westport. It was kind of sick, actually. It was Democrats who did that. So they're going to have to prove they can not just talk about a progressive agenda, or as Steve Bendick might say, fight this war, that they can actually deliver and do it. So when Tom Breen looked at these bills, I recommend you look at his story. It's on the homepage of the Independent if you want to see. He picked about, I forget the number, 8 or 10 or a dozen of the most important, because more interesting bills. I mean, separate from the issue of total amount of urban aid to the cities, educational cost sharing, that's a statewide issue that impacts New Haven most of all on the table this year. In addition to that, Tom gave you a good look where you can get your arms around a good sampling of bills that either have a really good chance or are very interesting being pushed by New Haven and Hamden legislators. And they're raising the minimum wage to $15 a month, an hour, which I think will happen. Legalizing recreational marijuana? Not sure. Creating a paid family medical leave program? Robin Porter, state rep's big issue. I think that's going to happen. Building affordable housing in the suburbs? Not so sure. Property tax reform, school district regionalization, and criminal justice reform. Those are structural changes. Those deal longer term in many ways with what the factors that some people think hold our state back. Those are bigger lifts. We have a track record now of criminal justice reform starting under ex-Governor Dan Malloy. I think that can continue. Governor Lamont hired a new criminal justice chief from Utah who has a record on that. So we'll see. We're wishing him luck with it, and maybe even delivering for New Haven this time on some of the urban versus suburban issues. And maybe giving us the right to do some kind of extra taxes no one would seem to mind, like a extra 0.5% or percent on dinners at fancy restaurants, concert tickets, maybe even a 1% sales tax. That would help us not have to raise taxes, but also not cut our government in counterproductive or harm or mean ways. Okay, end of sermon, back to local music. One of my favorite bands from this area is called Suburban. Talk about urban and suburban. And they got a track from their album, Everybody Knows, which when it came out, they were here on the station letting us know about it. And it's called, track number 5 we're going to listen to. It's called If You Wanna Fly.
Yeah. If you wanna fly, if you wanna fly, yeah. Oh, the
fly high above the trees. Being in the plane to me is just a tease. The calm of the clouds, the feel of the breeze. Life from up here just seems at ease. And any location could be our destination. No long travel or endless waiting. Down there there's hate, down there there's panic. And even though they try to explain, I'll never understand it. So just keep your eyes fixed on the horizon. Before you said to land, now you're saying to fly. The slingshot, no strings, only thing you got is my shoulder. You're down in hesitation, weighing down like boulders. Don't worry, we gon' get there, I told you. So just keep your eyes shut and hold on till it's over. So I spend every night with my eyes shut tight, praying that maybe one day I too could take flight.
If you wanna fly with me, keep an open mind and ski. Open up your eyes and see. If you wanna fly with me.
One night at my window sat a strange man. I asked his name and he told me he was Peter Pan. He started telling me about this place called Neverland, where you never age, and every day is a blank page, everything's an adventure. Oh, he said, I forgot to mention, I know that you will come, and please allow me to tell you why. If you choose to come with me, then I will teach you how to fly. I was so fucking excited I wanted to cry, but he disappeared and reemerged out of the corner of my eye, handed me a contract and a pen, told me to read and take my time and to sign on that dotted line. I said, nah man, I'm not trying to be famous. I'd rather be with my family and all remain nameless, because to me this is the definition of flying. What he was doing was selling dreams and just lying.
If you wanna fly with me, keep an open mind and ski. Open up your eyes and see. If you wanna fly with me, if you wanna fly with me. If you wanna fly with me, keep an open mind and ski. Open up your eyes and see. If you wanna fly with me, if you wanna fly with me, if you wanna fly with me, if you wanna fly with me.
If you wanna fly. That's Suburban. Hot, newish, local band. And you're listening to hot tracks from local artists and local headlines on Dateline New Haven, WNHH-FM, your home for community radio, 103.5 FM, live streamed, New Haven Independent. And you got a taste there of what Suburban's magic formula is. And you're hearing them in the background here. They're led by the Widmer brothers, Charlie Widmer and Fred F1 Widmer. They grew up together loving music. They're real close. And they can really anticipate each other the way like the Rogers brothers do in Mighty Purple. And Charlie is the one who does the singing. And Fred does the rapping. And they combine those together the way you get like a sweet sour dessert or a dish at a restaurant. And they Charlie's also an opera singer, trained and performs opera. It's great to see them taking off and they're flying, and they're talking that you heard Fred rapping about how it's more important to be with family than to sign a dotted line for some contract that makes you famous but isn't doing what you believe the way you want to do it. I think that's part of the magic formula here in New Haven. What makes us a great city? That we have a lot going on here, but we don't have pretensions of being the Big Apple. I want to do a few more shout outs. Thanks for joining me today on Local Headlines, Local Tracks. I want to give a shout out to Officer Yannick Crawford on the west side of town. He was working next to security detail at Stop and Shop at Amity Road. He saw someone running, a 57-year-old guy. He really wanted some Budweiser. I guess it was a Super Bowl weekend. He carried out 2 30-packs of Budweiser. He had 60 beers with him. That guy was seriously wanting to enjoy himself, sort of. And he made it out in the parking lot, but Officer Crawford spotted him and chased him. And I guess that he had a little bit of an advantage because he wasn't carrying 60 Budweisers with him when he was running, the way the subject was. And he, as Lieutenant Rosedale, the top cop in Westville, put it, he made the apprehension. Way to go, Yannick Crawford. And way to go, the firefighters in Hamden. This weekend, right over the New Haven line, Newhall Street, 2-family house rented by people. The house is owned by a church. 4 people inside. It was on fire. Pretty big fire in the basement. Not a huge fire for the rest of the house, but it was all filled with smoke. Couldn't breathe. The man in the basement someone was in the basement, got out, but got sick, got to get sent to the hospital. And then upstairs, the people couldn't get out. The smoke was filling in. And they went out. There's a little mini roof in the front where 2 people went out. One was a special needs adult. And the firefighters came, had a truck that's attached to a ladder attached to the truck, put it up there, and guided the 2 of them down to safety. Then they noticed that someone in the back was hanging at a window. Half his body was out there and had nowhere to go. And they couldn't breathe inside the house at that point. And one of the firefighters raced back, who had participated in the first rescue, put another ladder against the house, and the fellow came down to safety, not injured. None of the upstairs people were injured. No firefighter injured. Firefighters injured. Good job to all keeping us safe. Thank you. So thanks for joining us today on Local Headlines, Local Tracks, Dateline New Haven. Tomorrow, it was Mayorless Monday today. Tony Hart had other business to attend to. Someone looking to unseat Tony Hart this year in the elections. Justin Elker plans to come to Dateline New Haven tomorrow on Tuesday. Want to tune into that. In the meantime, we're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience, performing I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free, from the group CD, A Plea for Peace. Now we know what it's like to be free. We just got to remember to book our flight. Fly free with it, and you will never get bumped, by the way. Even if the plane is full, there's always more room. Fly free with us all day and all night long here at WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.